Alright, let's talk Suns and Nuggets. Coming into the second round, I think a lot of people thought that this was going to be the most entertaining series we were going to get. However, at the time of recording this, it is currently 2-0 and Denver is up. And honestly, it doesn't look like Phoenix could win this series with the way they've been playing. But are we overreacting, or is there something that we're starting to see? Now, before we talk about this series, I need to talk about a series that happened about a year ago. On the Boston Celtics road to making the NBA Finals, their first stop was playing the Brooklyn Nets. Despite the Nets being the lower seed, a lot of people thought just because Kevin Durant was on that team and they had Kyrie still that they could possibly win that series. However, for the first time in Kevin Durant's life, it seemed like this man was contained. No one had ever stopped this man the way Boston was able to. Now, Boston had one of the best defenses last year, but how were they able to do that to KD? Well, it was simple. They were able to swarm him and they stopped him from being able to drive. One of Kevin Durant's best attributes is the ability to be able to drive to the basket. However, he was not able to do that. And because of that, the only shots that KD could really take were just these weird mid-range pull-ups, which of course it's Kevin Durant, he's going to make those, but it's not something that you can sustain for the entire game. So you might be saying, okay Spex, that's kind of cool, but what does this have to do with the Denver Nuggets and Phoenix Suns series? Well, it's the fact that Denver is doing the same thing to KD, but not just KD, the Suns as a whole. Now I will say, despite this being the case, I think really two players that haven't been as much affected is Devin Booker and Chris Paul. However, Chris Paul got injured in game 2 and he's not going to be playing for games 3, 4, and 5, and that's even if the series gets there. But Devin Booker, that is a whole other story. In the last game, Devin Booker had 35 points while shooting a little over 50%, and he didn't get a lot of his points from free throws as he only made 3 of them. But as good as Booker is playing, that's not going to be enough if Phoenix wants to win. Now, to talk about Denver for a sec, they've been playing well this series, and more importantly, I think Nikola Jokic is finally proving to people that he's actually a really good player, which I don't know why it's taken this much to prove it, but something that's been catching my eye is something I did not expect. Nikola Jokic is actually a positive on the defensive side when this man for a majority of the season has been criticized as a negative. And in fact, I want to look at it today because this could be the reason why Denver wins the series. During the regular season, the narrative started to become that Nikola Jokic was going to be easy to pick apart in the playoffs. All you had to do was run multiple pick and rolls versus Denver and you were going to win. And in previous playoffs, this was definitely the truth. I mean, there's a reason why Chris Paul looked like prime Chris Paul in 2021. However, that's not the case anymore. While this would have worked in previous years, it seems like Denver is not using the same strategies as they did before. And in fact, they're actually relying on Jokic on the defensive side to be an anchor. What's been very interesting to me about the Nuggets defense is that they're using Jokic to play up on people, but then he goes back and recovers to the paint. Because it's pretty self-explanatory, but if you have Jokic guard a guy like Booker or KD or any of the shifty guards that Denver has, well, that's obviously a mismatch and Jokic is not going to be able to contain it for long. However, if you put Jokic on them and have him give some pressure for a while, then he can recover back to the paint and do his thing. And I think Denver rather have a DeAndre Ayton versus Nikola 1v1 matchup instead of having Nikola Jokic try to guard KD or Booker, because that's barbecue chicken, at least in a 1v1 ISO situation. Going back to Nikola Jokic, there's also a reason why DeAndre Ayton hasn't been that effective, and again, it's Nikola Jokic. Nikola Jokic gets away from the guard and he goes back to the paint, he's going to be able to stop DeAndre Ayton because Ayton isn't going to be able to do much. Either Ayton's going to pass it out or he's going to take a tough layup, which is Ayton going to make that? I don't know. Also, let's talk about Phoenix for a sec, because Phoenix has a mid-range game, a deadly mid-range game, but that's when it's open. And I know they've been able to take some contested shots, but Denver is really forcing them to take bad shots. Denver is forcing their player to defend Devin Booker and try to force him inside, where they're going to have a guy somewhere in the middle, maybe a guy like Aaron Gordon or Nikola Jokic, which is why you've seen a lot of Phoenix's guards have a lot of turnovers. And hell, even in transition, they haven't looked the best because of that defense. Now, of course, one of the most important thing about the playoffs is it comes to matchups. And Denver, I think they got very lucky with their matchup, because as far as teams in the playoffs, Phoenix is not one of the better three-point shooting teams. I mean, let's face it, their mid-range game is one of the reasons why they're so damn dominant. But you're not going to be seeing this team shoot a lot of threes, and it's been very apparent. During the NBA playoffs, the Phoenix Suns are dead last in three-pointers made and three-pointers attempted. And by the way, this includes teams that have already been eliminated. They're number 16. But what I think is interesting is that Phoenix is top 10 in three-point percentage. So from the looks of it, it seems like Phoenix just doesn't take a lot of threes. It's not like they can't make them, they just won't take them. And I don't want to be that guy, but it has something to do with Monty Williams. The problem with this offense is that Monty Williams is having it where there's no three-point action really going on. The mid-range jumper is the focal point of the offense, but they're not even trying to space the floor. And there is a reason why Phoenix is just getting outscored. And I don't want to be that guy just blaming the coach for every single thing, but at some point you have to look at things like this and say, damn, that's actually true. And I know Phoenix doesn't have shooters like the Golden State Warriors do, where they can just space the floor and they got all these catch and shoot guys. But we're not gonna act like they don't have some guys that can definitely space the floor. I'm not saying Booker is the three-point sniper he used to be, but he can be pretty consistent. Josh Okogie, Torrey Craig, even Terrence Ross, they're not bad when it comes to shooting threes. Now I get it. If Phoenix was just missing a bunch of threes, I would say, okay, you know what, that's fair. Stop taking threes. But they're not even trying. And when they do, they're not bad, which is very confusing on why Phoenix doesn't take more threes. And I know the mid-range game is still great and you can be able to drive and run pick and rolls and things of that nature. I understand that, and I'm not trying to take that away. Now, before everyone thinks I hate Monty Williams, I am going to give him some praise for a sec. In game 2, Jamal Murray was basically nowhere. This man, I don't even think had 10 points, and I think Monty Williams had something to do with it. They were sending doubles his way, they were trying to pressure him to taking bad shots, and they made Murray not really in the offense, which is why Jokic had arguably his best performance of the year. But more importantly, Denver scored its least amount of points in the playoffs this year, which I think is pretty impressive that Phoenix was able to do that. Now, I want to talk about going forward in this series because there's still a lot we need to look at. It's only game 3 that's coming up, and I think this is going to be a very interesting game. If Phoenix loses, I think the series is over. I don't see anyone coming back 3-0, especially not Phoenix. So I think it's pretty obvious, but Phoenix needs to win game 3, and I think that's very possible. If Phoenix can play the defense they played last game but try to contain Jokic a little bit, I think they're going to be fine. But honestly, I don't think Jokic was the reason why they lost. I mean, sure, he definitely had a reason to do with it, but Phoenix's offense was just not playing well, and Denver's defense played way better than we thought they could. The only way I see Phoenix honestly winning this game is if their offense changes. In my opinion, I think they should still try to be able to drive the basket, which hasn't gone that well, but just try to kick it out to your shooters and let them shoot. Also, give minutes to guys like Terrence Ross and Darius Bazley. I know those guys haven't really played in this series, but now is the time to try and reach down your bench, because quite frankly, using Shamet as a player in game 1 did not end well. He was barbecue chicken. However, he gets a DNP in game 2 and Denver did not score as much as they normally do. Coincidence? I don't think so. Now, if you had to ask me, I think Phoenix wins game 3, but game 4, that is a whole other conversation we're going to have to look at. And trust me, I think Phoenix is going to struggle a little bit without Chris Paul, but I'm interested to see how Campaign can step up. Now, let's go to Denver for a sec, because Denver, they could put away the series by winning this game. As far as their defense goes, I'm not entirely sure on how they can do better. I guess I would say try to contain Devin Booker, but that might not be an easy task. If you really wanted to be clever, you could try to let Booker just do his thing and let him score 50 if he wants to, but attack everyone else. Like, if you can keep KD to under 20 points and DA to under 10, I think you win that game, because not one player can win you a playoff game. That's just a fact. On the offensive side, my best thing to say is just get Jamal Murray more involved in the game and try to get him hot early. Because Jamal Murray was not hot during a majority of the game, it seemed like he was just out of the offense, and that's why Jokic was able to feast. Other than that, I think Denver's pretty good to win this series, and with the way they've been playing, as a Suns fan, I'm gonna say Denver could honestly win in 5. Now, unless Monty Williams and the Phoenix Suns come out looking like a completely different team and their offense changes and they're better on the defensive side, I might change my pick. But with a team led by Monty Williams, I'm not gonna lie, it's not looking good. But there's actually so much more I could say about this series. In fact, on my podcast, The Starting 5, which the first episode will be released today, we actually went in depth on why Denver could beat Phoenix and why Phoenix has a lot they need to work on. If you guys want to check it out, the video is on the screen right here.